Hey everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. I hope that you've had a great week. For those of you who tune in every single Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, welcome back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. For those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, welcome, welcome. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. We are here live every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. And for those of you who are tuning back in or tuning into the replay of this on Dr. Nekeshia Hammond YouTube page, be sure to like this page, share this video, and subscribe to the page. So again, welcome, welcome. Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. Before, actually, for those of you who are new to mental health moment is all about how do you work on becoming the best version of who you are so you can show up powerfully for yourself and for the people around you. So we're here every week live, talking about different wellness tips, different things you can work on in your personal development and your life. Again, just to be a better version of yourself, because not only does it positively affect you, but it also helps the people around you, right? So again, welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining here. Let me know in the chat where you are tuning in from today. Hopefully I can see the chat because I never know with technology. But let me know anyhow where you're tuning in from today in the chat. And then before I start today's mental health moment, let me go through a couple of quick announcements here. Let me get the date for you. So I'm giving you the right date. Okay. Should have memorized this by now, but it's all good. So for those of you who are new to mental health moment, at the beginning of every mental health moment, I share just a couple of quick announcements. If I am able to share a speaking event with you that I'll be at, I definitely will share that if it's obviously open to the public. Most of them nowadays, unfortunately, are not, because they're different corporations and organizations that just have closed events. But if they are open to the public, I would definitely invite you all. So the next one that is open to the public will be Sunday, March 22nd. That will be in Tampa Bay. If you're in the Tampa Bay area or plan to be in the Tampa area on Sunday, March 22nd, 2026, for those of you watching this video after this date. But Sunday, March 22nd, it's called the Intersection event. It is, again, in Tampa Bay. It's hosted by the amazing Melissa Atkinson. It's going to be a great event. It's a wellness event. I will be there speaking about mindset, of course, and resilience, and giving my perspective on an amazing panel. I'm excited to be on that panel, and the rest of the day is going to be amazing as well. So again, be sure to register. I believe they are sold out of the early bird tickets, I believe, but they still have some tickets left. So again, it's called The Intersection, hosted by Melissa Atkinson, and it's on Sunday, March 22nd. So be sure to register for that. Yeah, I have another announcement, but I have to wait. Still working on it. So I'll wait on the other announcement I was going to share with you all. Okay, so those are my announcements. Again, welcome, welcome. Let me know where you're tuning in from in the chat. For those of you who are just tuning in, I reside in the Tampa Bay area of Florida, sunny-ish Florida, even though it's been cold the last 2 days, which is like kind of unusual for us to be dipping into the cold weather here for a second. Okay, so today's mental health moment, one of the things that I always talk about, or one of the things I should say I have talked about, especially in my recent mindset training series books, is about our self-talk. Because really important when you really think about how do you grow as a person, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. One of the things that's going to be really, really critically important for you all is to work on the things you're saying to yourself, your inner dialogue. How are you talking to yourself? What are the things you're talking to yourself? Words are very, very powerful. It is something that I hope for many of you that you are in, almost like make a lifetime commitment to working on bettering the things you say to yourself, how you say things to yourself, when you say things to yourself, because we live in our thoughts, right? So it's really important. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips today, because basically your inner dialogue, if you will, can either be your fuel. Like you can pump yourself up, right? Sometimes you have to be your own cheerleader. You could be your motivator. You could inspire yourself, right? With your thoughts, the thing you tell yourself, or unfortunately, the other end of that is sometimes our thoughts can lead down really dark, spiraling paths of feeling unworthy, feeling unloved, depression or anxiety, or all sorts of things can come about, right? There's this like huge spectrum of possibilities when it comes to the how we talk to ourselves, right? So I'm going to give you a couple of tips today. And again, thanks for those who are starting to join here. Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. Let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from today. Right now, the second, unfortunately, I do not see any comments because of technology, but sometimes it's very odd during the lives. Like it'll, I don't know, the comments will start to pop up late. So hopefully I'll be able to see it because I love to see what you all are saying. But nonetheless, let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments. But anyhow, so a couple tips for you today. The first one, and for those of you who are my note takers, this is a good one to, just kind of jot down some quick notes about things that just to start to think about implementing in your life, right? The first thing when it comes to your self-talk is I really want you to think about noticing your tone. It's so funny. I think for many of us growing up, we were probably you probably heard the phrase from a teacher or a parent or whomever, like watch your tone, right? Like the way you say things, like watch your tone. Or maybe you say that to your own kids or grandkids or niece and nephew or whomever is around you, like watch your tone, right? Well, it's the same thing though when we talk to ourselves. Like we really need to stop and tell ourselves sometimes, like, watch your tone. Because sometimes we can talk to ourselves in such a negative way that we would never talk like that to someone we really care about. Right. So again, the first tip today is really to think about like watch your tone with how you treat yourself and the things that you say to yourself, because it's really easy to be angry with yourself or excuse me, or be sad about a certain situation or just have some negative viewpoint about yourself or whatever it is, but then you get into some type of pattern where you are saying things in such a harsh way to yourself and you don't deserve to be talking to yourself that way, right? So again, I really want you to think about um like there's so much value in our self-talk. Honestly, there's so much value in the things we tell ourselves. So again, is this really a conversation of doing your best to uplift yourself, doing your best to motivate yourself, speaking kindly to yourself, and that takes practice, right? We're all at different points in our wellness journey. For some of you, this is not an overnight process. Like it could take time, it could take weeks, months, years. I don't know. It just depends. We're at different levels, if you will, with our wellness journey, but it is possible for you, right? It is very possible for you, but it does take practice and it does take awareness. I would say, I always say that. I say like 1,600 times on mental health moment. First step is always awareness. You have to be aware, like aware of your thoughts, aware of the things that you're telling yourself. Then you take, steps towards making it better, right? So that's tip number one is really to think about noticing your thoughts or noticing your tone when it comes to your thoughts, right? The second thing is I really want you to also consider like the things that you're telling yourself, because for sometimes you may talk in extremes, right? Like language matters. Your words are very powerful. Y'all. Words are extremely powerful. I can do a whole mental moment about that. But I will say that saying things like I am never good enough, or I always make mistakes, or I will never achieve this particular thing, like talking in those sort of extremes. First of all, it's not true. Like it's not true. But also it's your stress talking, right? It could be anxiety talking, it could be depression talking, it could be you're just going through something right now. And so you're like your self-talk starts to like you start to tell yourself things that are not true, right? And then thinking and talking in extremes to yourself, like it's a matter of really catching it though. Right. So again, think about the language. Again, think about the words always and never. And not that they're never true. I just use never, right? But like most times we tend to exaggerate things that are not true, especially when you're feeling down or you're feeling nervous or you're feeling, you know, angry or whatever strong emotion you have. We tend to cloud our judgment. We tend to tell ourselves things that are not true. So again, it's really about thinking about how do you get to a place where you work on not using those type of phrases? I always mess up. I'll never get anything right. I'm never good enough. Um, those types of negative things, especially with the always and never, right? Again, it's being aware and then choosing different phrases, which we'll get into. But let me pause for a second. Just welcome, welcome. Thanks for those who are joining here. Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. Let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments, even though right now, this second, unfortunately, I cannot see the comments because technology is going to do what technology wants to do. Even though I love seeing you all's comments and where you're tuning in from. But again, still let me know in the comments. Sometimes the comments pop up later on um in the live stream. And again, so for those of you who are just tuning in, I reside in the Tampa Bay area of Florida. And we are here every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. If you ever miss a mental health moment, you can always go to YouTube, excuse me, Dr. Nekeshia Hammond YouTube, and catch the replays of the videos. Oh, now I can see a couple comments coming in. But welcome back from Boston. Thanks so much for tuning in here. Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. I got a couple more tips for you all today, but again, if you're just tuning in, we're talking today about your like your self-talk, your inner dialogue, the things that you say to yourself because words are very powerful. Ooh, I could like I said, I could talk for 3 hours about that. Ugh, there's so many things. I was gonna share some stories with y'all. I'm trying to keep mental health moment in our time frame here. But there's just so many stories I can share with you all. Like personal stories and also just professional stories and just things I've heard from other people, but it's so incredible to me the massive change that can really happen in your life when one of the things that you do is work on your self-talk, work on the way you say certain things to yourself. Again, if you're just tuning in, we were talking about watch your tone, right? Again, you may have heard that as a child or maybe even as an adult or you may have said that to someone else, but it's like for us personally, we also have to be thinking that way for our own thoughts. Like, watch your tone. Be careful what you're saying. Be careful if you get into the negative self pattern of what you're not or who you can't be or anything, right? Negative like that about yourself or about certain situations or blaming yourself for the guilt. Like, it really, yeah, we want to prevent going down a dark spiraling path. Um, and the second tip I was talking about today was really thinking about your language, right? Of being careful of saying things like I always get things wrong, I never do things right, I will never be good enough, like all those sorts of things which are not true at all, right? And I do want to say before I share, I have two more tips with you all today. But before I share that, let me take a quick pause and just say and remind you all for mental health moment, I love, love, love being with you here with you all every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, sharing these tips. But I do recognize that sometimes the tips are just not enough. So if you are in a place where you're like, you know what, I try all these things at home, it's very difficult. Maybe there's just something going on in your life that you're happy or that you're struggling with, right? Please be sure to reach out to a mental health professional. Very important. I totally understand there's a stigma of mental health treatment. Um, and also, though, there's a lot of people who have been helped by reaching out to a mental health professional. So if you need to take that step to see if you need therapy or counseling or whatever it is may be helpful to you on the professional side, please take that option too. So I just want to do my, public service announcement real quick for you all with that. Okay, so two more tips to go. The other thing is that it's also really helpful to think about. So for those of you who struggle maybe with like judgment, like really like overly judging yourself, one of the things instead of getting into the self-blame game, because it's really easy to get into that self-blame. However, well, it doesn't help you. It doesn't help you, but it is hard. It is hard to get out of sometimes, right? But instead of judging yourself, instead of saying, how could I do this? What is wrong with me? Or thinking about all your faults or all your failures, like getting again into a self judgment mode. Instead, try to think about like, but what do I need in this moment? Right. So it's basically rephrasing, rethinking about your thought process. And I don't want to oversimplify this. Sometimes this literally um rewiring your brain, if you will, telling yourself different things, working on your thought process. Sometimes this takes years and therapy, frankly. Sometimes it takes weeks, months, years, or sometimes you can do this, like I said, on your own. Like there's a huge spectrum of where we're all at when it comes to our wellness. But just some things for you to think about is instead of getting into that place of judgment, also telling yourself, like, what do I need in this moment, right? Or what can I learn from this experience? Like it is a real huge mental shift to do that. It does take practice. It does take time. But it's a better place to be than the critical self-talk where you just get into shutdown mode. That's a hard place to get to, right? Because sometimes we're so critical of ourselves that like we accidentally cause more problems, if that makes sense. Not because of what is even going on around us, but how we perceived it, what we told ourselves about the situation, what we told ourselves about ourselves, and now we're in, yeah, a more negative situation that we caused just by our self-talk. Right? So again, it's working on getting out of that inner self-critic, and not the healthy inner self-critic. Like sometimes we have to be critical of things, but like the critic that like is too judgmental, too harsh, like that voice, right? Um the other thing is, so we've been talking a lot about, watching your tone, those sorts of things, but also it's the phrases that you're also working on telling yourself, right? So practice, so you can practice when you get in high pressure situations, things to tell yourself to get yourself back into a calmer state, is either things like just breathe, right? I say that all the time because I'm in a lot of high pressure situations. So I will out loud sometimes say like, just breathe, breathe, just breathe, breathe. Like I'll remind myself to take the deep breaths to get back into a calmer state. Right. So again, whatever high pressure situation looks like for you, whether it's at work or at school or with family or friends or community or wherever you're at, especially in high pressure situations, think about what is it that you are telling yourself? What is the self-talk you're telling yourself to get through? Like, just breathe. Right? Sometimes we have to say that. The other thing is sometimes reminding yourself to pause before you respond. We talked about that on another mental health moment, actually, because I will tell you a situation. I'm not going to say who it was. It is a household name company. I'm not going to say which company it was, but there was a situation that I was not very happy with that happened. I don't know, was that a week or two ago or so? And anyhow, this said company sent me an email. The representative sent me an email that I was not happy with, you all. I'm not gonna lie. And it's very hard for me to get angry. Like there's a lot of things I'm like, whatever. But I was not happy that day with the email and the way that what was said. And I won't get into specifics. But you all, but what I did, so just how I'm preaching and teaching you to you all, I did practice the pause before I responded because said email was not appropriate to me in the first place. But anyways, but I did practice exactly what I'm teaching you as well. Like there's things that you have to say to yourself sometimes. So I had to tell myself to pause before I responded. Because I felt like what was said was pretty ridiculous in the way it was said. But trying to be my professional, put on the professional hat, right? I was like, let me pause before I respond. And I actually waited a couple hours to respond. When I, yeah, wasn't as like just a little agitated by how the email went. So and it was eventually resolved anyway. So but again, but it's something that you have to tell yourself. Like it's something that you will have to practice ahead of time, if that makes sense. So don't wait until you're in a situation where you know you're going to be triggered and you're going to be upset, you're going to be angry, or you're going to be depressed, or you're going to be anxious, or you're going to feel away, right? Have a strong emotion. Like, don't wait until you're in that situation, then be like, oh, wait, like just respond. But instead, if you know ahead of time, if you've been practicing, right, and rehearsing in your head, like ways to respond, or just like the inner self-talk that you have, saying to yourself like, hey, sometimes I just need to pause before I respond, right? Or just breathe. Maybe you just need to like just breathe. Maybe you have a coworker that you're having a difficult time with. I talk a lot to companies where that's a huge thing. All right. Sometimes they're just toxic work environments. There's people, situations. You may not be able to remove yourself from that such situation. So again, what's the self-talk that you can work on to get through said situation for your mental health, and also for maybe your job, right? Or maybe just the piece of the situation around you, right? What are the things that you can tell yourself? Um and it's really helpful, like I said, to be practicing that even throughout the day. Even if there's not a situation that is upsetting, like you're just having a day, like what are the things, like if you really start to think about your thought process, like what are the things that you're telling yourself throughout the day, right? And for some of you, you use affirmations. We've talked about that before, actually, on mental health moment. I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to think how long it's been. I feel like it's only been within like maybe a year or two. I started like personally using, or maybe it's been 3. Okay, it's been a while. I personally been using affirmations as well, and I love them. Because you're just working on training your brain of how to build yourself up sometimes, right? Life is just going to throw all sorts of curveballs because that's what life does. But how do you build yourself up? How do you stay mentally resilient? How do you stay uplifted? Right? Like working on what are the things you're telling yourself? What are the things you're believing about yourself? How are you training your brain to be more resilient? Right? It's just like a muscle. The brain, our minds are muscles too. So really thinking about, again, going back to those high pressure situations, whatever it is for you, how can you work on having your own self-talk almost like fuel you for the better, right? Instead of causing friction, instead of leading to self-sabotage, instead of leading to negative outcomes, like let's work on positive outcomes, right? If you're just tuning into today's mental health moment, we've been talking today about our self talk. It is a process. Do not beat yourself up. That would be totally opposite of what we're trying to achieve today, right? So working on the things you tell yourself, the tone in which you say things to yourself, right? Watching your tone, watching your language, and understanding how powerful your words really are. Again, you live in your thoughts, you all. We live in our thoughts. So it's really, really important for us to work on how do we change these thoughts. Now, again, there's so many thoughts we have throughout the day. It's very unrealistic. Not every thought is going to be positive and rosy. Of course not. Like that's not even the goal, but it is to work on thinking about how do you wake up? Like what do you tell yourself throughout the day? What do you tell yourself before you go to sleep? Like are you being intentional of the things that you're telling yourself? And even if right now I would challenge you all, if you are like, you know what, my thoughts are so negative all the time, it's hard to change those things. Well, a couple things. One, maybe, it might be time to reach out to a mental health professional or a coach to help you through that and have a more formal process. But also, you can start to use things like affirmations, or just finding like different phrases to put around you and practicing telling yourself those things, even if you don't believe that it's true. Start just start. Start to say those things to yourself though. And your brain will push back sometimes, your mind will push back and be like, "Nope, that's not true. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be emotionally healthy." Like you may be like, "Nope, that's not true." But over time, you're working on training yourself to believe those things. Right? And not give up on yourself. Um and really understand that it, like anything, it takes time. We wouldn't expect to go to the gym and like if you wanted to lose 20 pounds, it doesn't you're not going to go to the gym one time and like, oh, magically 20 pounds come off, right? Like that would be impossible. But it would take time, right? You would do different exercises, you would change your diet, you would do all these things, and over time, that goal can be accomplished. It's literally the same thing on the mental health side as well. You practice, right? You practice this, take the time, make the changes, have people around you who are supportive of you in your journey. Know that you don't always have to do this alone. If it takes a friend, family member, mental health professional, person on a place of worship, whomever it is for you who are supportive of you in this journey that can help you get you through, that's okay too. Or you can do it solo if you're like, nope, I'm good, right? Like, and it's healthy and it works for you. So there's a lot of options here. Yep. Um, someone said, I now understand the power of the tongue. Words are powerful. Exactly. Like extremely powerful. There's so, it's, oh my gosh, there's so much research on this. Like it's insane. Like just how there's so many studies, there's so much research on just like how impactful it is, like the things that we say to yourself ourselves, right? I mean, it's in different religions too, and different spiritual texts, but also like on the sciencey, research side. Like there's so much that goes into this, y'all. Like it's very deep. And it's pretty cool actually when you understand how powerful your words really are, and you work on changing those things. And I do share that with you all from a place of many years ago, like really having some negative harsh self-talk, like major inner critic. And I was like, what in the world? um but I had to go on a journey as well, just how I'm teaching and sharing with you all to really get out of that place. Like it just wasn't healthy. Like I'm like, why would I say that? Like I look back now, I'm like, not from a place of blame, but just like, man, why would I be talking to myself like that? Right. So yeah, we're not doing that anymore. But though it takes time, right? Again, we're all at different places. So you might be in a place where you're like, nope, I'm good. You might be in a place where I'm learning to tweak some things, or you might be in a place where you're like, oh, I'm really in, kind of some really negative dark thoughts that I want to try to get out of. All of it is good. Most important thing, awareness and taking the steps to better yourself. There was a month recently where we talked about sleep, because I've met like so many people with problems sleeping at night, and it doesn't. I'll just say it briefly, and I'm gonna wrap up today's mental health moment. But it just it's not only what you do at night that impacts your sleep, right? So if you had like the most stressful day and all day you're berating yourself, you're telling yourself negative things, you just like you're just revved up, right? And you're really, really stressed out. That can be really hard to like lay on that pillow and be like, night, night, like, good night. Because like your brain and your body haven't really shut down, if that makes sense, to get to a nice calm place of sleep. So yeah, it's not always only about what you do right at bedtime. There's a lot that you can do throughout the day too to again get your mind and body into a calmer space. Um Hi from Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome. Good evening from Miami, Florida. Nice conversation. Really enjoying. Beautiful. I'm glad to hear that. Miami, so nice. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to you as well. Okay, so I am gonna wrap up today's mental health moment. But thanks again for everyone who's tuning in. If you hear I'm just slightly congested because I don't know why. I feel like we went from like 80 degrees to like 30 degrees. I'm a Floridian, y'all. So that does not that did not go well with my little allergies here. But hopefully you guys can hear me just fine today. But nonetheless, all good. I'm sure it'll be warming up in like the next couple days back to hot again in Florida. But anyhow, but yeah, so thanks again for you all for tuning in. I always appreciate you all tuning in, not for me, but for yourselves, to work on yourselves, work on being a better version of yourselves, working on not just improving yourself for you, but for the people around you who want you to be the best version of yourself also. So kudos to you. I applaud you. Thank you for being here. I will be back next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here live on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. Be blessed. I will see you next week. Yes. And have an amazing week, you guys.